You've probably spent most of your career assuming one thing, that if someone offers you a promotion, the correct answer is yes. Yes means you're winning. Yes means you're moving up. Yes means all those late nights, extra effort, impossible deadlines, awkward performance reviews, and meetings that should have been emails finally paid off. But what if the promotion is the trap? What if the thing you've been taught to chase is the exact thing most likely to make you worse at your job, more stressed, and strangely less valuable? Hey, I'm Brian, and I spend way too much time thinking about work, money, and why smart people keep accidentally optimizing for the wrong thing. Because one of the strangest truths in modern careers is this: some of the smartest people in the room say no to promotion on purpose. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why, and why that decision may be far more rational than anyone around you realizes. If you like thinking about money, work, and status a little differently, subscribe. We do a lot of that here. The default career story is painfully simple. You start low, you work hard, you move up. Then you keep moving up until someone eventually gives you a nicer title, a larger paycheck, and an email signature long enough to require scrolling. That's the dream. Promotion equals progress. Management equals success. Leadership equals arrival. And if you turn any of it down, people look at you like you just declined oxygen. It's treated like standing halfway up Mount Everest and announcing you're happy right there. Everyone assumes the peak must be better because it's higher. But careers don't actually work like mountains. They work more like investing. Everyone stares at the line moving upward and assumes upward movement is always good. But price is not value, and elevation is not fit. You can climb into a role that pays more and still lose. Lose your autonomy, lose your craft, lose the part of the work you were actually exceptional at. The dangerous part is that none of this feels irrational while it's happening. It feels responsible. It feels ambitious. It feels like what smart people are supposed to do, which is exactly why so many smart people walk straight into it, and why the mental model itself is broken. There's actually a name for this: the Peter Principle. It was introduced in 1969 by educator Lawrence J. Peter in his book The Peter Principle, and the idea is almost offensively simple. In a hierarchy, employees are promoted based on performance in their current role until they reach a role where they are no longer competent. Then they stay there. That's it. You keep getting rewarded for being good at one thing until you land in a job that requires an entirely different thing. And because demotion is rare, socially awkward, politically messy, financially painful, you don't move back down. You stay permanently. Imagine the best salesperson on a team. They're elite. They read people instantly. They close deals under pressure. They can walk into a cold room and leave with a signed contract. Naturally, they get promoted to sales manager, except now they're not selling anymore. Now they're hiring, forecasting, reviewing spreadsheets, mediating conflict between two account executives who suddenly hate each other over territory boundaries drawn on a dashboard. The skill changed completely. The game changed. It's like rewarding your fastest striker by making them the coach, or taking your best pilot and saying congratulations. You now manage pilots from a conference room. Same industry, different physics, and that's the trap. The reward system assumes excellence transfers upward. Often it doesn't. If you're new here and just subscribed, comment your name below. I read every comment and shout out new subscribers in my next video. I do appreciate you joining me on this finance journey. And this isn't just a clever theory from the 1960s. Researchers have actually tested it. One of the most cited modern examples comes from a large-scale study published in the Quarterly Journal of Economics, which examined more than 53,000 sales employees across more than 200 companies. That sample size matters. This wasn't a quirky startup with one bad vice president. This was broad, messy, real labor market data, and the finding was brutal. The strongest salespeople were consistently more likely to underperform once promoted into management. In other words, the people generating the most revenue often became weaker leaders. Why? Because individual performance and managerial performance are not interchangeable skills. Selling rewards persuasion. Management rewards coaching. Selling rewards speed. Management rewards patience. Selling rewards ego at least a little. Management often requires putting your ego in a drawer and spending your day helping other people win. Those are different muscles. And being elite in one tells you surprisingly little about the other. Organizations promote based on visible output because output is measurable. Management ability usually isn't, at least not until much later. So companies reward what they can see, then hope the invisible traits show up afterward. Sometimes they do, often they don't, which means this isn't anecdotal. This isn't bad luck. It's systemic, built directly into how careers are designed. And if the Peter Principle wasn't enough, There's another force quietly making this worse: regression to the mean, which sounds academic, but it's painfully practical. Promotions usually happen after your breakout year, your biggest year, your highest sales, your strongest quarter, your most visible win, and that performance feels fully earned. Because mostly it was. But exceptional outcomes are almost never pure skill. They're skill plus timing plus opportunity plus randomness. You worked hard, and the market turned your way, and the right client appeared, and the product launched at the right moment, and your territory happened to outperform. That's normal. That's reality. Then the next year happens, and statistically, performance drifts closer to average. Not because you got worse, because extremes naturally normalize. But now there's a twist. Your numbers are drifting downward at the exact same moment the role becomes harder. So your output falls while expectations rise. You're being rewarded for running your fastest lap, by being moved into a different race, while starting slightly more tired, which feels terrible. Because from the outside it looks like the promotion exposed weakness, when often it's simply exposed math. The biggest mistake in career thinking is visual. You've been taught to picture your career as a ladder. Bottom rung, then the next, then the next. Keep climbing. Don't stop. Higher must be better. But ladders are a terrible model for human performance. A better model is a curve. Picture a graph. Along the horizontal axis is responsibility. Along the vertical axis is everything you actually care about: income, effectiveness, energy, autonomy, fulfillment. At the beginning, the curve rises. More responsibility makes you better. You learn faster. You become more valuable. Your skills compound. Your confidence compounds. Your compensation compounds. This part feels incredible, because it is. Then something changes. The curve starts flattening. Then quietly it bends. Not because you got worse, because the role drifted away from your strengths. Maybe you were extraordinary at building systems, or closing deals, or writing code, or solving technical problems faster than anyone else in the room. Then the promotion arrives, and suddenly your days become budget reviews, hiring pipelines, conflict resolution, one-on-ones, approvals, Slack messages that begin with quick question, which is corporate language for your afternoon is gone. You spend less time doing the thing that made you exceptional, and more time orbiting around other people doing it. That's where performance often declines. Not from laziness, not from lack of ambition, from misalignment. Your peak zone is usually somewhere before that bend. That point where you're highly trusted, highly effective, highly paid, and still energized by the work itself. That's where value compounds fastest. And the cruel irony is this: society tends to reward you most aggressively at the exact moment you're most at risk of leaving that zone. Right when everyone says, "You're ready," you may already be exactly where you're strongest. If promotions were evaluated like investments, a lot fewer people would accept them automatically. Because every promotion is a trade. You gain compensation, maybe a larger bonus, maybe more stock, maybe more visibility, maybe a title that looks impressive on paper and vaguely exhausting in practice. But the costs are rarely listed next to the offer. More stress, more meetings, more emotional labor, more political exposure, more responsibility for outcomes you can't fully control, less autonomy, less time in deep work, less contact with the part of your job you actually enjoy. And then there's the hidden cost nobody mentions socially. You inherit variance. Your success becomes partially dependent on other people's performance. You can do everything right and still miss because someone else missed. That changes the entire risk profile of your career. This is an expected utility problem. Not, will I make more money? But, will the total return on my time, energy, health, and income actually improve? Those are different calculations. The reason most people skip this math is simple. Because promotions are framed like rewards, and rewards feel rude to question. But incentives deserve scrutiny, especially the shiny ones. So what do smart people do instead? They separate compensation from hierarchy, which sounds obvious, until you realize how rarely people actually do it. Most people negotiate title. The smarter move is negotiating value. That means refusing the assumption that more money must require managing people. If your highest value contribution is execution, stay close to execution and negotiate from there. That conversation can sound like this: I'm excited to keep growing here. Right now, I believe my highest impact contribution is as an individual contributor. I'd love to discuss expanding scope, influence, and compensation without moving into formal management. That sentence changes everything. Because you're not saying no to growth. You're saying yes to the version of growth where you remain effective. That's not small thinking. That's precision. And increasingly, companies already support this, especially in tech. Staff engineers, principal engineers, distinguished engineers, senior researchers, top individual contributors in sales. People with no direct reports earning compensation equal to or above managers. Because companies learned the hard way that forcing top operators into leadership destroys value. The modern alternative is parallel career tracks. Leadership on one side, mastery on the other. Both respected, both lucrative, both promotable. The trick is choosing deliberately instead of reflexively. Not climbing because the rung exists. Climbing because the next rung still fits. There are usually two people playing the career game, the climber and the master. The climber keeps moving upward because movement itself feels like success. New title, new org chart, new layer. Keep climbing, keep going. Even if each step moves them further from the work they're uniquely gifted at. The master plays differently. The master pays attention. They notice where their skill becomes disproportionate, where effort produces unusually high return, where their work feels difficult but natural. Then they stay there, long enough for that advantage to compound. That's what people underestimate. Mastery compounds, reputation compounds, expertise compounds. And over a long enough timeline, compounding beats promotion theater almost every time. Because long-term security doesn't usually come from title. It comes from being hard to replace. And the hardest people to replace are rarely the ones with the biggest team. They're the ones with the clearest edge. The climber collects promotions. The master compounds leverage. And those are not the same thing. So the person who wins the career game is not the one with the most impressive title. It's the person who figures out exactly where they create the most value, climbs to that precise point, and has the discipline to stop. Because optimization is not about getting higher. It's about knowing when higher stops being better. If this changed how you think about promotions, work, or success, subscribe. Because a lot of the smartest financial decisions you'll ever make look strange from the outside, right up until they compound.